الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وجعل لنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, last week we managed to complete the tafsir of Al-Fatiha, which, subhanAllah, is a big milestone. And throughout the whole of last week, I kept replaying the Fatiha over and over and over again. And subhanAllah, this is the translation that was born from our lesson. All praise and thanks is owned and belongs to Allah, because He is the Lord and Master of everything. But do not be concerned, for His mercy encompasses everything and extends to His ownership of the universe and even to the Day of Judgment. Be determined to enslave yourself in worship to Him alone. Once you have done this, then seek His help in your enslavement to worship Him alone. Ask Him to continuously guide us and not leave us alone for even a moment upon the upright, expansive, easy path that is the Deen, which those who have graduated have succeeded in traversing, and protect us from ending up like those who earn the anger of creation and Creator, and of those who are just plain lost. This is what we covered last week. And now, that is the introduction, the iftah to Surah Al-Baqarah. Surah Al-Baqarah is an amazing surah. The Prophet ﷺ himself said that everything in existence has a summit, a peak. And wallahi, Surah Al-Baqarah is that summit. The peak of the Qur'an. And that is what we are going to tafsir, inshaAllah. Exciting. And of course, within Surah Al-Baqarah is the summit of all ayat, the peak of all ayat, Ayatul Kursi. Yeah? SubhanAllah, it's an amazing surah. The reason for that is because it encompasses everything to do with belief and the branches of Islam. Umar ibn al-Khattab spent 12 years of his life memorizing it. You're probably wondering, subhanAllah, that's a long time. I know people have done it in 1 year, or 6 months, or 2 months, or even 1 week. Some amazing people, mashallah. But when I say that Umar ibn Khattab memorized it, I mean ilman wa hifdhan wa tatbiqan. He memorized it, he understood it, and he implemented it. And it took him 12 years to do that, and his son Ibn Umar did it in 8 years, exactly the same. So, subhanAllah, Surah Al-Baqarah is an amazing surah, and it is highlighted in every single ayah that we are going to do. It is said by the Prophet ﷺ that whoever recites it, the shaitan cannot come into his house in the day, if he recites it in the day, for 3 days. And whoever recites it at night, the shaitan cannot enter his home for 3 nights. This is the power of Surah Al-Baqarah. An incident whereby the Prophet sent out an expedition to go and, I think it was a battle or some sort. And he asked each person how much of the Qur'an they had memorized. And then one young man said he memorized Surah Al-Baqarah. And the Prophet ﷺ made him the leader of the army. He's probably the youngest. It's just to show you the value and the merit of Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay, inshallah, I won't take too much more time with regards to the introduction, but there are many ahadith, many virtues with regards to Surah Al-Baqarah, more than we can mention in one day. So for now, we'll move on, inshallah, to the first verse. And the first verse is, of course, Alif Lam Mim. Some Qur'an recite Alif, Lam, Mim. And the Qur'an, Alif, Lam, Mim. Either way, it is correct. They are known as Huruf al-Muqatta'a, the disjointed letters or the cut up letters. And the significance of these letters are amazing, subhanAllah. I've already shared some of the amazing virtues of Alif Lam Mim before. Like Ar-Razi saying that the most magnificent, the most significant thing that he ever discovered or ever understood from the letters was not their meaning, because it is unanimously agreed that the meaning of these letters are only known by Allah, right? But the impact of these letters is what Ar-Razi emphasized. He says that it forces the person, immediately after reading the Fatiha, he comes across something that he has to admit, that the human intellect has to admit he will never understand before he can continue. And it is well noted that after all of these letters, Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad, Noon, Wal Qalami wa ma yasturun, Hamim, Alif, Lam, Mim, Ra, what is mentioned afterwards? Something about the Book of Allah, always. So Ar-Razi says it forces the intellect to be put in its place, to admit that you will never understand something. So come to this book humbly. That is Ar-Razi's take on Alif Lam Mim, right? Then we would have Al-Sha'rawi. Sha'rawi was a contemporary scholar of Egyptian origin, if I'm not mistaken. And Sha'rawi's take on this was that Alif Lam Mim was actually a challenge to the Arabs of the time. Because the Arabs of the time, they were extremely eloquent in their language. You know, they determined their royalty, and they determined who was the best among them by whom had the highest level of speech. So their poets were kings, and they treated them as such because they had mastery of the language. So it was if now the Prophet ﷺ, who was ummi, unlettered, he couldn't read. Now, the significance of this is lost on us because we don't really understand what it is to be ummi. Think of a child who can speak. Does that child know the letters? Before school, let's say 7, 6 years old, 5 years old, say they've not gone to school. Does that child know the letters? No, that child doesn't know the letters. But the child knows how to use the language. Yes, ajib, right? And it's the same with the Prophet ﷺ. When he came with Alif Lam Mim, this is Sha'rawi saying this, when he said Alif Lam Mim, everyone was blown away, including the Madani Jews, who were known as scholastic people. They were the scholars, they had books, you know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes fun of them in the Qur'an. He says, يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا, like donkeys carrying massive amounts of load. That's how they are. They have all of these books, all of this knowledge, but it doesn't go in, doesn't penetrate. Anyway, they prided themselves on being scholastic people. And they used to make fun of the Arabs as well. We used to call them ummi. It was a way to make fun of them because they didn't know how to read and they didn't know how to write. And then the Prophet ﷺ comes with Alif Lam Mim, so they are now blown away. How does he know the names of the letters? So this is Sha'rawi's take on it. So he says this is a miracle unto itself, a miracle related to the Prophet ﷺ that he couldn't have known if it wasn't revealed to him, because he was Iqra. What did he say? Ma ana biqari, ma ana biqari. I'm not a reader. It's what he told Jibreel thrice. I'm not a reader. How did he know the letters? Only Allah. There's no other way. There's no possible way for him to have known it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught it to him. So this is Sha'rawi's take on how the letters itself is a miracle. You know? So Al-Razi puts it in your intellect, and Sha'rawi says it's a miracle unto itself because the Prophet was unlettered. And then Dr. Booty, he comes and he says it's actually a challenge, or rather a refutation against him being a soothsayer and and his words being divination, some sort of magic, that was happening at that time. It's against that because he is telling them, this is what Dr. Wood is saying. He's saying, look here, the entire Quran is made up of alif, lam, mim, etc. letters. What is magical about that? You can do it also. Yeah, it's just letters. It's just words that can be made up. And it can show that because a human being cannot do it, it cannot be soothsaying, it cannot be divination, it cannot be sorcery. It must be divine. So this is the way that the letters are. Subhanallah, quite magnificent, depending on the vantage point you look at it. So and then it leads into the next ayah, which is ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ. Most scholars will tell you ذَلِكَ is ismul ishara, is an indicative noun for لِلتَّبْعِيد, for what is far away. And هذا is ism ishara for what is nearby. هذا is this, and ذَلِكَ is that. Is the way it is usually translated, right? In our translation, it's this book, where it should be that book. But more interestingly than that, ذَلِكَ is actually 3 words. Yes. I know, subhanAllah. Tha is the ismul ishara, is the indicative noun. That's why you have the tha and the tha. Hadha, dhalika. You see the thas in the 2 words? So the tha is 1 word. It's an indicative noun, so it's indicating to something. Tha, like that. The li is for rafa, for something that is high, that is held high. And the ka refers to you. So it's the dhamir, the pronoun that is attached to it all. So then when you put all of this together, it's like this high thing is for you. This essentially is the way that the picture is painted. ذَلِكَ now becomes more profound. But now also presents us with a second question, is why is it that and not this? Why is the kitab, the book, al-kitab, why is it that and not this? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alluding to? Because if I have it here, هذا القرآن, هذا الكتاب, صح? This is the book. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ? Yes, this will be the هذا والمصحف, right? But now the book was being recited, right? So this brings us, let's go into the next topic and we'll come back and we'll join it together. What is Al-Kitab? Let's discuss that. What is the difference between Al-Kitab and Al-Qur'an? Right? Lawh al-Mahfuz would be dhalika. One of the interpretations is dhalika means that the book is in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, in the highest, on the preserved tablet. And that is dhalika al-Kitab. And then it is being read onto the Prophet. This is one interpretation of dhalika al-Kitab. Right? But let's understand Al-Kitab and then we can understand the second interpretation, inshallah. What is the difference between Al-Kitab and Al-Qur'an? Al-Qur'an is that which is read. Right? Al-Qur'an is read. Al-Kitab refers to the book that is preserved. See, that's why they say preserved ala lawhin mahfuz. It is preserved in the tablet. So when we talk about Al-Kitab, it is something that is preserved in the heart. But yes, it is written on lines. Something that is written on lines, but it is something that is preserved in hearts, in actuality, in reality, until the day of judgment. This is what Al-Kitab is referring to. And specifically, Al-Kitab and not Kitab. The Mufassirin, I think it was either Al-Razi or Zamakhshari, they said that by the mere fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put alif lam al-kitab to make it al-kitab means that it is the book from which all books come. Now you think, subhanAllah, how is that possible? What is in the Quran? A little bit about everything. Yeah? In the Quran, there's a little bit about everything. So much so that the Mufassirin say that it is impossible for a book, if it is not from Allah, to speak about so many different topics and not be contradictory. You take a book from one subject 20 or 30 years ago, and you look in that subject, another book, you will find contradictions between those two books in the same subject. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken about a myriad of different subjects, from botany to marine biology to meteorology to laws to family law to inheritance. Ya Rabb, the list is endless. But there is no contradiction. And this is why it is called Al-Kitab. This is one of the interpretations for this. So there goes, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. That book on the preserved tablet, which is read unto Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, through Al-Amin ila Al-Amin, from the most trustworthy to the most trustworthy, meaning Jibreel to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That book of high station. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that book, La Rayba. Here, Dr. Bhuti, he mentioned something really amazing about this. SubhanAllah, I never noticed it before. But after he mentions it, I couldn't stop noticing it. Dr. Bhuti says that book, if we say ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ, no doubt. Right? We stop there. Because one of the ways that this ayah can be read is, you can say ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ, and you can stop. And then you can say فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is one of the ways it can be read. And with this comes an incredible meaning. It means that there is no doubt about the book. In other words, there is no doubt that this is the book. That this is the book from Allah. That this is the Al-Qur'an. Are you with me? But now the question becomes, yes, but we've met people who have doubted this. Right? Even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Arabs doubted the book. Correct? Am I correct? So Dr. Bhuti says, that doubt, ala lisanihim, that is what they say with their tongues. But if you look in their hearts, you will see that they recognize that this is the book from Allah. This is the profound nature of la rayb. No doubt. Anyone who comes in contact with this book, the real Qur'an, according to Dr. Bhuti, in his heart will recognize that this is the Qur'an. This book is from Allah. And that is what this means. SubhanAllah. The next one is, the alif lam mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. If we stop there, it means that there's no doubt in the book. In other words, that is a common interpretation. That one we understand and makes sense. There's no doubt in this book. There's no doubt before, there's no doubt behind it. There's no doubt that he's not sorcery, he's not a crazy person, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa astaghfirullah, that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is not a liar. There's no doubt that he did not deliver the entire message. There's no doubt, Allah ila akhirih. There's no doubt. And then it says, Hudan lil muttaqin. And here's where it gets very, very interesting. The first question, the translation is Hudan lil muttaqin. Guidance for muttaqin, right? The people who have taqwa. So is the translation. We're all together on this one? Alif lam mim, dhalika al-kitabu la rayba fi. That is the book. In it there is no doubt. Guidance for those who have taqwa. Now the question becomes, if you have guidance, if you are guided, right? Divine light, you are guided, then you are already a muttaqi. Am I correct in saying that? If you are someone who has taqwa, it means that you are already guided. Anyone can disagree at this point. This is the question. If you are guided, then you are already a person of taqwa. Right? So then over here, Allah is saying that this book is a guidance for those who have taqwa. So then why would you need this book if you're already guided? Is everyone with me on this one? This is a bit of a technical one, so tell me if you're not with me. Yes, the question is sound, right? Everyone, that's the question. So now the Mufassirin, they come and they tell us, no. There are two types of guidance, not one. And the guidance you are thinking about, that guidance is where Allah says, وَمَن يُضْلِلِ اللَّهُ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ وَمَن يَهْدِ اللَّهُ فَلَا مُضِلَّ لَهُ وَمَن يُضْلِلْ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. Wherever Allah guides, none can lead him astray, and wherever Allah misleads, none can guide. Right? That's the guidance in your heart. Right? Then you have the guidance, it's in your heart, you are guided. That's one. We understand that guidance. But then there is a guidance that is the path that leads you to guidance. It's two different things. Guidance and guidance. Hidayah and hidayah. The one is the actual guidance, and the other is the path that leads you to the guidance. You with me? In this ayah, Allah is saying hudan, a path that leads you to the guidance, is for the muttaqeen. Now you're going to ask, Ya Rabb, but they are already muttaqeen. In the Arabic language, there's something you must understand. That you can call someone something before they are that person. For example, in Arabic, they always give the example, qatala qatil al-qatil. You know, the killer, ma qatala al-qatil al-qatil. The killer did not kill the killed person, or the person who was, what we say, the person who is trying to kill. You know, the person you were trying to kill. What do you call that? Attempted murder. You know, would be the English equivalent of it. But in Arabic, the person who you wanted to kill, right? The intended person to kill, and the person who was killed, it's the same word, qatil. Yeah, so ma qatal al-qatil. He didn't kill that person who he wanted to kill. Are you with me? So is the person it's the same with muttaqi. You know, the person is striving to be a muttaqi. So he is a muttaqi, but he's not yet a muttaqi, but he's striving to be that. So in Arabic, muttaqi encompasses all of that right now in this context. It's hudan lil muttaqi, a way for the person to be guided so that he can become a muttaqi. Are you with me? So this is the book, right? That is the book. In it, there is absolutely no doubt about it, in it, wherever close to it. It leads the person who is seeking to be a muttaqi to guidance. Is everyone with me? Within these words, this is what exists. That's why it must be unpacked. Even in English translation, a very good one, couldn't unpack this. I'll give you an example of this. Right? A person, why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over here say, Alif Lam Mim dhalika al-kitabu la rayba fihi hudan lid-dhalin, a guidance for those who are misguided? Wouldn't that make more sense? This book, a guidance for those who are misguided. A guidance for those who are muttaqi, who are already guided. You're with me now? Right? Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to show us something very, very profound. Wallahi, stay with me. It is extremely profound. Just like hidayah is of two types, right? That which leads you to guidance and that which is the light itself, the guidance, right? Dalal, being astray, dal, going astray, misguidance. It's poor translation, but let's go with it. Is of two types as well. The first misguidance is the person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about, that they will, whether you tell them, you don't tell them, it's the same thing. They are daleen, right? They are astray. But the second one is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about here. The one who is misguided, but they want guidance. They want it. They don't know. They are misguided, but they want it. And that person, if you came to them and you told them about Islam, they would take it. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about over here. Hudan lil muttaqin. For these people here. Right? So this also presents a question that pops up more often than not, is the question of how do you know? Like, how do you know who is the daleen and of the first category, who is the daleen of the second category? Right? The one who is inclined towards taqwa, and the one who in his heart is averse to it. He hates it. Right? He just hates everything about Islam. He hates everything about Allah. He hates everything about the deen. It's just, there's a lot of, in one word, kibr. There's a lot of kibr in the person's heart. Right? Dr. Booty says there are 3 reasons why a person will not accept the message. Right? When he says these 3 people, it is based on the fact that this person is an intellectual. In other words, he has sound intellect. He is knowledgeable. In other words, he is able to take in knowledge. Right? He is, for all intents and purposes, not defective. There's nothing wrong with him at all. He's not crazy. He's not a child that is, of questionable age and is not able to distinguish between right and wrong. He's a perfect adult human being with all capabilities intact. Right? He says that person, there are only 3 reasons why that person will not accept the message. He says number 1, istikbar is the first one. Right? That he is in search of arrogance. That is what he's seeking in this world, to aggrandize himself, to be arrogant. He wants to imbibe arrogance. Arrogance is the first one, kibr, istikbar. The second one is more interesting, because istikbar is known. The second one is what is known as masalih an-nafs, self-interest. So the person knows what you're saying is the truth. But because it goes against their own self-interest, they won't accept it. For example, professor is made his living off of speaking against Islam. Discovers how Islam is correct. This is the truth. But if he says that, he'll lose his job and everything in this world that he's worked for. So because it's easier for him here, he doesn't say anything. And he continues just to live the lie, in other words. Self-interest, as an example. And the last one, I think, is also very common. Unsuriya, prejudice. What is prejudice? Prejudice is any form of hatred that makes one group of people better than another. So racism would be prejudice. I mean, all these other isms out there as well, they are forms of making one group superior to another. And this also stops a person from accepting the truth. So this is what Dr. Booty says. These are the 3 things. So these come in the form of daleen. So that's why when you find a person who is misguided, but he in himself, there is a desire for the hidayah, a desire for the truth. These are the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about here. This book will be a guidance for them. And then what becomes, then once you are guided, what makes you a muttaqi? What makes you of the people of taqwa? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that next. He says, the people are alladhina yu'minun. So the first one is, they are those who, they have iman. Right? Tasdeeq al-qalb. In other words, they have affirmed with their hearts the truth. And they now believe in the first thing, al-ghayb. So the people of taqwa, the first quality that they have. Also, you must understand something about tafsir. In tafsir, there are 2 types of descriptions, known as it's known as wasful bayan and wasful qayyid. So a description that explains but doesn't restrict, and a description that restricts the meaning to this particular thing. Right? For example, if I said that that Aziz is brilliant, this is a restrictive explanation. He is brilliant. There's nothing else. He's only brilliant. You know, he's not funny or anything like that. He's just brilliant. So this would be a restrictive explanation. But I said Aziz is colorful. You know, it's just one explanation of Aziz, but it doesn't exclude other explanations. So these that are coming now to explain al-muttaqin are wasful bayan. They explanatory, not restrictive. So in other words, there can also be other things that explain muttaqin, or those who have taqwa. Is that well there? Okay. So the first one is yu'minuna bil ghayb. They believe in al-ghayb. There's a lot of things that I can say about this. But wallahi, now, let me tell you the most interesting thing that I learned. First off the bat. Wait, maybe I'll keep it for third. No, I'll tell you straight. I think I wrote it down here because I wanted to delay it. Let me see. Here we go. It says that Abdullah was sitting with some of the tabi'een. Right? Abdullah ibn Umar was one of the companions, and he was sitting with some of the tabi'een. So the tabi'een, they had never met the Prophet ﷺ. Right? And they were talking about how the companions' deeds were superior to everyone else's. You know? And Abdullah ibn Umar, he came and he sat down and he said, you know, the people who saw the Prophet ﷺ, it was easy for them. You know, they were certain. You know, this is the deen, this is the haqq, you know, and they were on it. But he says that there is no truer statement that you believe in al-ghayb than you believe in the Prophet ﷺ. So what he did was, for us who came afterwards, Abdullah ibn Umar said, it's almost as the Prophet ﷺ is part of al-ghayb. And the Mufassirin say that if your ghayb is of a high caliber, then your iman will be of a high caliber. So if your love for the Rasul ﷺ is of a high caliber, then your iman will be of a high caliber. So he tied the believing that the Prophet ﷺ is real and was real, you know, and you will meet him, and knowing him, to al-ghayb, to believe in al-ghayb. Isn't that amazing? I thought it was amazing. So as you increase in your love for Rasulullah, you know, loving him so much as if you met him in life already, then know that your iman is of a high caliber, because it's alladhina yu'minuna bil ghayb. This is the most fascinating thing, subhanAllah, that I discovered about al-ghayb. All the others is well known. It refers to an-nar, al-jahannam, jannah, you know, all of these things that the Prophet ﷺ told us about, that no one has knowledge about. Not the malaika, not the jinn, not even the messengers and the prophets, except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed. For example, ilm as-sa'ah, no one knows about it. The hour, when it will happen, no. Does Jibreel know? No. No one knows. No creation of Allah knows. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept this knowledge for himself. Right? So this is what we refer to as al-ghayb as well. This is one interpretation of it as well. So they, I think it was Al-Sha'rawi. Now, Al-Sha'rawi, he said that the most important thing about different mufassirin, they emphasize different parts of this ayah. For example, Dr. Bhuti emphasizes the salah part. Like Al-Razi, he emphasizes the iman part. The Sha'rawi emphasizes the ghayb part. He says the ghayb is the most important thing about this ayah. And they unpack it in that way. So whenever I speak about a particular word, I'm taking for the one who had the most to say about that particular part of the ayah. Because then they would explain it the best as well. And so my explanation now came from about al-ghayb from Sha'rawi. It's very good, subhanAllah, about al-ghayb. It says that this entire ayah is about al-ghayb. He says that if your iman in al-ghayb, in the unseen, is the same as your certainty is you are sitting here right now. Right? Then he says that everything else after that will come easy. He says that the next thing is وَيُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ. If your iman in the ghayb is the same as you see me in front of you right now, then the establishment of salah becomes easy. Right? Then the spending of your rizq, of what Allah has provided for you, spending of it, giving of it freely, becomes easy. Right? This is one of the interpretations. Dr. Booty gives a very long, very long exposition on the importance of salah in this ayah. He says, وَيُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ, it's no joke. This is the crux of this ayah, he says. Because he says, with establishing salah comes your connection with Allah, comes your sustenance, comes your increase in your iman in the ghayb. He says it all centers now around salah. Because he says salah is dua. Shar'a, he says linguistically, that's what it means. Salah means dua. That's what Dr. Booty says. But in the Sharia, we know it's to be, it starts with takbirat al-ihram and it ends with salamu alaykum. This is salah as we know. But he's saying it is a dua. It is a communication between you and Allah. And he says that you must never, ever, ever think about salah as if it is a burden on you. He says the minute that you think salah is a burden on you, then you have lost the point of salah. He says that the first and foremost, before you come to salah, know that it is Al-Malik Kul-Kawn, the owner of the entirety of the universe. Rabbil Alameen, Lord of everything. Allah, Rabbul Izzah wal Jalal, the Lord of majesty and mercy. The Lord of the Sifatul Jalal wa Sifatul Jamal, the Lord of all the attributes of authority and majesty, and all the attributes of beauty and mercy. He is inviting you to stand before Him to complain about your life. SubhanAllah. I've never heard anything like that before. That is what your salah is. And that is how you must approach it. Any other way would be a disservice to yourself. Salah is an honor bestowed upon you in a very honorable way. As you can imagine, Dr. Booty went on and on and on about this because it's important, subhanAllah. But for our purposes, I think we have the point, inshallah. Salah is important, not just to perform it, but to establish it. I'll mention one last thing about this. Dr. Booty said, many people, they perform salah, right? But they don't establish it. They just perform it. And he says he says that there is no difference of opinion among the scholars that if you make salah without khushu', without the humility of heart and presence of mind, then it will not be accepted by Allah. There's no ikhtilaf on this. Now, obviously, for many of you now, you're thinking that is quite harsh. But it's only because perhaps you don't understand that if you perform salah, it ticks a box. You have performed it in its time. You will not be punished. Ticks a box. But if there's no khushu', you will not get rewarded for it. Wadah? Right? So that's why you can just imagine, what are the rewards of salah? They must be amazing. So, and he gave some advice. He says, in order to get to that khushu', he says, make your salah like it's supposed to be. A communication, a talk to your Lord. In each posture, the Prophet ﷺ has given us words to use. Expand on those words. Understand those words. And you will find it, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, biqudratillah, slowly, you will start to develop khushu' in your salah. But you must start to understand the words that you are saying in order to develop that khushu'. Know what you are saying to your Lord when you are saying it. When you are on ruku', tell yourself, raka'atu laka ya Rabb. I've gone into ruku for you, Allah. You know, come up. اعتدلت, I stood up for you, Allah. Sujud, sajadtu, sajda wajhi lilladhi khalaqahu wa sawwarahu. You know, there's a lovely, I don't know if you know the dua for the sajda to sujud, sajda tilawa. It's beautiful. Sajda wajhi lilladhi khalaqahu wa sawwarahu. I have placed my head on the ground for the one who created it and fashioned it. وَشَقَّ سَمْعُهُ وَبَصْرُهُ, and who developed its hearing and its eyesight. بِحَوْلِهِ وَقُوَّتِهِ, with his might and his power. تَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. Blessed is the one, blessed is the best of creators, the creator. It's, you know, these words, you use them and you communicate in your salah, and slowly the khushu' comes. And the last one, وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Al-Razi, Imam Al-Razi gives the best explanation. He says, rizq is not only money. He says that is incorrect. Rizq is not only money. He says rizq is everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you of benefit. Right? So if you take it like that, then this ayah means that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you of benefit, you must spend that. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you good health, but absolutely no wealth, then use your health to acquire some wealth and help the people who don't have health. You know? I know that rhyme, but I never meant for it to rhyme. But yes, that is one thing you can do. It says, if you have knowledge, give your knowledge to those who are ignorant. If you have forbearance, help the fools, you know, from themselves. You know, SubhanAllah, there are many ways. You know, the ni'am of Allah is as many as the stars in the sky. But I just wanted to expand it a bit for you, this ayah. وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. It is more than just wealth. You can give freely of yourself from the one who gave it to you. The most important thing is to recognize the one who gave it to you. When you give, your giving must be, whatever your giving is, it must be a reflection of the one who gave it to you, if that makes sense. In other words, like we go back to Alhamdu, the praise must belong to Allah. So when you give, reflect that the praise belongs to Allah in your giving. And this is the way. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, min ma. Because as it's translated, how's it translated? What we have provided for you. Right? Spend of what we have provided for you. No. Yeah. So that could be, that translation doesn't need the min. Right? It can just be وَمَا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. The min makes it specifically from, I've provided it from you. مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُ. You know, that little bit that I've provided for you. You know, so Allah, so make it inshallah reflect that. I'm going to do this last ayah inshallah quickly, and then we'll call it there inshallah. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now going to recount the fourth quality of the muttaqi. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. That is it. Yeah? Those who believe بِمَا أُنزِلَ, in what was revealed to you, Muhammad. The most powerful thing about this ayah is the mention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything else is them. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Right? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ, those who believe in the unseen. وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ, those who establish. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ, those, you know, them, always them. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ, and those who believe. بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ, to you, O Muhammad. This is the most powerful thing about this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is highlighting the status of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam here. It would have made sense for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, with the rhyme of the surah. It is a deliberate break in the rhyme. Allah is highlighting that this was revealed to you, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ. So this is part of our belief. We must believe that it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the final prophet, elevation of his status. وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِن قَبْلِكَ, and what was revealed before you. So here, what the most powerful thing here, the most profound thing that slips, is that there is a misconception in the ummah sometimes, that there are multiple deens. The Christian deen, the Jewish deen, the Islamic deen. But this ayah is telling us that is not the way. There is only one deen. And then those who deviated from the deen, from the one deen. It doesn't make sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is our one Lord, sent multiple messengers with different messages. No, if there's different messages, it means somebody lied. That is what it means. أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِن قَبْلِكَ وَبِالْآخِرَةِ. And the last one, وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. And they're saying here, the Mufassirin say that the reason why the akhirah, the year after, is mentioned with yuqinun, with certainty, is that they say that there used to be a difference of opinion between the Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book, right? Because they were mentioned before this now. Some of them used to think that the year after, or Judgment Day, that the punishment, right, is, or rather the experience is only going to be ruhaniyah, is only going to be by the soul, right? And some of them believed that they were only going to experience it, that they were not going to be in flesh anymore, right? And that's why the Qur'an, subhanAllah, goes into such detail of speaking about the experience in Jannah. Yeah? You're going to have cups, and you're going to drink, and you're going to enjoy things, and you're going to sit on thrones, explaining a physical experience to us in the ayat, especially in Surah Al-Baqarah, many ayat. كأس دهاقة لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما. You're going to hear hearing and sight. These are visual things. So one of the reasons why the Mufassirin said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so adamant on وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ, is that they are certain in the fact that this is going to be you are going to be resurrected like you are, completely, in flesh and blood. It's not just in your ruh, everything, down to your fingerprint, your banana, right down to your finger, but everything will be resurrected. And this is the point of saying, وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. Must be certain. Certain, as if, certainty they say is, just as you see your hand right now, that's certainty, that you are going to be resurrected, and it is going to be your complete resurrection, down to your fingerprints, everything. Not just a portion of you, not just your soul, not just whatever. These funny beliefs that they had. So that was the reason why it was emphasized there. I think, how much time do we have still left? 5 minutes? Shall we finish it, inshallah? These 5 ayat, they go together, these 5 ayat. Okay. So the last one, after yuqinun, we've got the last ayah. The last ayah is probably the ayah that confirms all of these interpretations that I've just mentioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ulaika, those people who have these qualities, al-muttaqeen in other words, they are ala hudan. They are on hudan, on guidance. Right? So now again, what type of guidance is this? Is it the way that leads you to the guidance, or is it the guidance itself? Ala hudan. So here, the Mufassirin say, ala gives it away. They say, ala is you are on top of guidance. And they say the best way to understand this, subhanAllah, al-mathal al-a'la, Allah gives the best examples, but for our purposes, think of hidayah as a car. Just guidance, put it in physical form. Make it a car or a horse, right? Whatever. And then you are on it. On the horse or on the car or whatever, and that guidance then takes you to Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal. That is essentially the way that the Qur'an is trying to show you what guidance is. You know, in this context over here. It is that thing that takes you to your hadaf, to your objective. And what is your objective? أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Those are the ones who are successful. Because that's what you want. You want to succeed. And you say, if you want to succeed, then get on guidance. And then you will succeed. How do you get on guidance? And that is in the word muflih. Muflih comes from the word falah, which means farmer, right? So muflih means succeed, and falah means farmer. So how do you get from farmer to succeed? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look, in the Quran, Allah uses other words for succeed all the time. Fa'izin. Stay in the Quran. Why not here? Because the definition for muflihin will be fa'izin, the people who succeed, the people who win. That's what muflih means. But Allah deliberately used a muflih word here to direct us to an analogy that is going to help us pull the surah, pull these ayat together. What does a farmer do? Well, look, farmers today, they do different things, but if you take it down to the basic thing, a farmer plants things, right? He puts a seed in the ground, he waters it, and he waits for it to grow. That is what a farmer does, basically. You know, there's a lot of technology now, and it's changed, you know, but I mean, that is the essence of it. You can disagree with me, but I think that is, if you break it down, that will be the essence of it. Who made the seed? Who causes the seed to grow? Allah is showing us in here how you can see the ghaib through the apparent. He is directing us to how to discover that which you cannot see or know through that which you can see and know. How? Allah, with all our technology, we don't know. We can't make a seed. Seed is a byproduct of a plant. We can't make a seed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about it in Surah Waqi'ah. Where does it go? It says, أَفْرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تَحْرُثُونَ أَأَنْتُمْ تَزْرَعُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الزَّارِعُونَ. It says, have you not seen the seed which you sow? Is it you who make it grow, or are we the grower? لو نشاء لجعلنا حطاما فظلتم تفكهون. If we willed, we would make it dry leaves, dry whatever. And you would remain in wonder. What happened? What happened? Allah is showing us the ghaib through physical creation. Allah is showing us also at the same time what it takes to get hidayah. What does it take? What did you do to grow that tree to get the fruit? What was your contribution to that entire process? Very insignificant, if you think about it. Allah created the seed. He caused it to grow. He gave you the water also. If you don't put water on there, you'll send the water. And then it grows. What do you do to make it grow? You do nothing. That is how you get guidance. Your contribution is just put it in the ground. And what is that? Azamta. SubhanAllah, your contribution is insignificantly small. The question becomes, this is the question. What do you own? To get this answer, just listen. What do you own in this world? Do you own the body that you have? No, you don't own the body that you have. Do you own the actions? No, you don't even own the actions. Do you own the words? You don't own the words. You don't. But now the question becomes, what do you own? And there is something. There's one thing that you own. One thing that is within your power to do. And that is between إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. It's the thing we spoke about last week. It is فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. When you have wholeheartedly determined your course of action. In other words, that's all. It is a determination. It is a heartfelt want and desire for guidance. Yeah, that is all. You develop, cultivate a want for Allah, a want for His guidance, a want to leave disobedience behind, a want, just a want, that's the seed, a want for Him. SubhanAllah. He will give you the guidance. The guidance is the horse. The horse will take you to success. That is all. He will empower your limbs to worship Him. He will empower your eyes to see Him. He will empower your words to speak about Him. He will empower you to do everything of the people of Ahlul Jannah. If you just have the seed of azama, of want for Him. That is all. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.